The task force penetrates the inside workings of the gang and uncovers Arroyo's methods for avoiding arrest. An organized system of guards and lookouts throughout the entire neighborhood is an ominous sign of Arroyo's stranglehold on the community.
Any activity that entered into the Villa Davila area, they would call out whether they were residentes or clientes. They would call out whether they were coming in bicicleta or a pie, meaning on foot or by car.
We immediately started to tape record those transmissions, and they were very valuable in the case.
On the only street leading in and out of the neighborhood, the gang paints a white line, marking the control point for their drug operation. Nobody can cross it without their permission.
I will say that we could not pass. We had to ask for permission in order to pass the line to our homes. Not only that, but they had a password. And if you did not have the right password, they didn't let you across.
When the investigation started, we discovered that in this specific area there was a white line painted here. We learned that the cars from the customers could not cross this line, because any car that was going to cross that line was going to run into the gunmen that guarded this area. Because the gunmen assumed that whomever crossed the line was not coming to buy, that they were coming to steal the drugs from the sellers.
Crossing the white line can be a death sentence for trespassers. Months after the task force investigation begins, one death sentence is carried out in broad daylight.
Approximately 4 or 5 months after the beginning of the investigation, one night, 2 men who belonged to another gang out of the metropolitan area came looking for a member of this gang, and they crossed the white line.
The lookouts with the radios had called in all along the way saying there was an unknown vehicle coming in, and when they identified it, they shot the car up with machine guns.
The gang's isolation is its strength. Untouched by legal authority, in Villa Davila they can get away with anything, even murder. The Safe Streets Task Force continues to investigate the Villa Davila gang, but despite surveillance videotapes and captured radio transcripts, agents cannot infiltrate the gang's inner workings.
It was very difficult to recruit members of the gang or even residents of the area that were willing to share inside information of what was happening within that Villa Davila sector.
Without being able to penetrate the gang's structure, the task force worries that videotapes and radio transcripts are not enough to prove that drugs are being sold. The task force needs a break.
For us to be able to get to these gang guys, we had to use other resources, and these resources were based on informants. Informants who were unhappy with the gang because the gang did not want them around anymore. And one of these guys, well, they were down on him and some of his relatives.
The informant's name is El Puerco, who fears he is next on the gang's hit list.
I think there was a bit of a rivalry between Pito Puerco and Juan Carlos Arroyo Reyes. And because of that, I think Pito Puerco caught the raw end of the deal on a number of occasions. He started believing that it was going to be an inescapable situation, that he was going to have to leave anyway. And we were just fortunate of the timing.
With El Puerco in fear of his life, he gives Polly and Torres a detailed story of a brutal street gang determined to become something bigger. The gang's power centers on one man who was born in Villa Davila.
Para ese tiempo, logramos identificar al líder de la ganga.
About that time, we managed to identify the leader of the gang, known as Juan Carlos Arroyo Reyes. This young man was around 23 years old, had some education, and was a natural leader and the power in the group.
Arroyo is the suspect of numerous other violent crimes. He has taken power after ordering the death of a rival gang leader.